Hello! As you know, there are dozens of video editing programs that you can use. I've used a lot of them. Video editing is one of my favorite things to do. I've noticed that they all share the same process, just a single process. If you understand that, it's almost like you can speak the language of editing, and you can travel to any of these programs and pick them up a lot faster. So I'm going to save you time and just teach you what I wish I knew when I started video editing. There are 6 steps. Let's get started. Step 1, start a new timeline. This will often be automatic when you start a new project in an editing program, but this is what it looks like. The timeline is like the canvas that an artist paints on. It's where you're going to paint the picture of your video. 2, find your tracks. The timeline is made up of 2 sections, video and audio. Video is always on the top, and audio is always on the bottom. These are called tracks. So you have video tracks and audio tracks. Now you can have multiple video tracks and multiple audio tracks, and that's one thing that differentiates more expensive editing programs from the free ones, is you have more video tracks and more audio tracks to work with. Step 3, import your content. What kind of content can you import? Basically anything you can see or hear. So things you can see, your videos or pictures. You could import icons or graphics or illustrations. What can you hear? You could import your voiceover, narrations, sound effects, and music backgrounds. Basically, you're just importing video elements and audio elements. Step 4, add video elements to the timeline. So you find a video that you've imported and you put it on your timeline. You just drag and drop it. Now, let's say you don't want the whole video. Maybe it's a video of someone snowboarding and they do a jump in the air and you only want to show the jump. So what you do is basically cut it. Now, this function has different names and different editing programs, but it might be called cut, trim, splice. It's all the same, cutting a piece of it. The main video still stays there in your project, but you're only showing a piece of it here on your timeline. You can do that again and again and again and add as many videos as you like. Now the timeline works sequentially. You read the timeline in the same way that you read a book, from left to right. So the video clip that's on the left is what you see first. Then the next video clip is what you see second. And it just continues like that. That's partly why it's called a timeline. It's what do you see in sequence of time. What if you want to show a picture at the same time as a video? It just goes on its own video track, but above the video. And whatever is stacked is what you see at the same time. Step 5, add audio. Now, your video clips will come with audio already attached, so it'll look more like this. But let's say you don't want that audio. Maybe you recorded your narration using a different device. So all you do is you delete that piece of audio, and then you can drag and drop a different audio onto your timeline. Lastly, if you want to include music, that would be on a different audio track. It could be a long clip of music that you hear under your entire video. Or you could add 2 different pieces of music, one right after the other. As many as you want. And there's your video. Your last step, step 6, is to export. This is where you select an in point at the beginning of your video and an out point at the end of your video, and then you export. It may have different names like output, but essentially this is where you ask the editing program to take all of your edits and then stitch them together into a single video. This is fun because you get to see the fruits of your labors, a new creative work that's never existed before, and one that will hopefully entertain, inspire, or educate others. Some editing programs will help you decide what type of file to export it as, depending on how you want to use it. But if you're going to post it on YouTube or other social media platforms, I would recommend an MP4 file and use an H.264 codec export setting. Check the description below for a direct link to more information. Let's review. Start a new timeline or sequence. Step 2. Find your tracks. 3. Import your media content. Step 4. Add video or visual elements to the timeline. Step 5. Add audio to the timeline. Step 6. Export. And then celebrate. Now, here's your bonus lesson. Once you've added video and audio, you can add what's called transitions. This tells the editing program how you want to move from one element to the next. For example, you can fade in, fade out, or swipe across the screen. You can also add what's called effects. This changes the look or the sound of the element. For example, you can change the color, the brightness, or the contrast. You can change the sound if it sounds like it's in an echoey room, or
you can even lower or
raise the pitch. Again, there's dozens of options. The more expensive editing programs give you more options for transitions and effects and more opportunities to customize them. But you don't need a lot. Often, the most professional video transition is a simple cut. And the most important audio effect is just the volume level. You will need to lower the level of your background music, for example, so your audience can hear your narration. And that's it. Here's your editing vocabulary list for your new language. If you recognize these and even better understand a little bit about what they mean, you're ready to edit. You can choose an editing program and then just go to YouTube and look for how-to videos on that specific program. I guarantee you there are hundreds of them. From creative people who followed this exact same process to educate you. Très bien. Muy bueno. You are now fluent in the language of video editing because you know the universal processes and steps that every single video editing platform or software uses. So you can travel to any one of them and it won't feel so foreign. Happy editing!